Welcome to University of Education Lahore, Department of English. The course title is Communication Skills. It is designed for BS programs. Its course code is ENGL 1119. I am course instructor Nusrat Sultana from Multan campus. The topic which we shall discuss today is reading comics. Reading comics is an interesting topic and it is quite different from reading short stories because in the short stories the authors and the speakers, those who are the creators of the short stories, they play with the words. They concoct stories with the help of the words, though they use imageries, symbols and similes and metaphors there. But here in comics it has different kind of representations. The authors are utilizing pictures and different images, and they are utilizing the captions, bubbles, to make the comics. These are no doubt more interesting than the short stories, but these also demand double interest and attention of the readers, because here we have to make the association of the words with the pictures, the representation of the characters with the comments and with the pictorial associations. So we need to learn the art of linking things. Our cognitive development is also gets sharpened here. It is getting sharpened here. So we can say that it is an interesting process of reading comics. But before going on to discuss this topic in detail, I want to first tell you what have been my sources for collecting the information suitable for this very topic. I have looked for these sources. I have studied Ways of Reading, Advanced Reading Skills for Students of English Literature. It was written by Montgomery in 2006. It is third edition, Routledge, London and New York. Then I looked for Oxford Dictionary, 6th edition, Oxford University Press. And I looked then Parkinson and Reid's book, which was published in 2000. Its name is Teaching Literature in a Second Language, Edinburgh University Press. I also found many websites useful for getting the information, deriving the information relevant to this very topic. Those websites are academypublication.com, classroom.synonyms.com, edu.gov.on.ca, English Students Success, PDF, howtolovecomics.com, masterclass.com, slideplayer.com, Read, Write, Think, International Reading Association, and lastly I look for lifehack.org articles. So these were the sources which helped me a lot for the collection of the information. Now I will further discuss the topic. First I shall define what is comic. According to the Oxford Dictionary, comic is in fact an arrangement of drawings in rectangles that tells a humorous story printed usually in a newspaper or in a comic book. So we come to know through this definition that the story in the comic is not made by the help of the words. It is created by the help of drawings, and those drawings are made in the rectangles, and those are the boxes, small boxes, which are made connected. 1, 2, 3 or 4 different boxes are made, and there different pictures are made, and different comments are also given side by side, and those tell humorous stories. So and the comic means something humorous. It does not talk about the tragic aspect. In short stories we see that there is neutral, comic, tragic, positive, negative, all kind of themes and all kind of points of view are there. Here every serious situation is also dealt in comic way, in humorous way, and it is printed in sometime in newspaper, and sometime it is also published in the books. And comic, another definition according to that, comic means stories through pictorial representations, twisted for children and adults in magazines and newspapers. So it is done especially for children and adults, but anyone can read comics because amusement is the right of everyone. So comics are available for everyone, but these are mostly published in magazines and newspaper. So it's good to learn about the reading of the comics. So further we shall discuss the topic. Move on further. Here I have chosen one picture of the comic for your understanding. Here you can see that Tom and Jerry, the most popular show around the globe, an interesting one that there you can see that there are many rectangles, and in those rectangles the Tom and Jerry, those are two characters shown, and these two characters are creating different situations, and every rectangle is linked to the second, and second is linked to the third. There is a new message, there is new comment, and these comments are given in the bubbles. So it is a good way the story is created, and it is giving a sense of happiness and amusement is created by this kind of pictorial story. The background of comics is also important to discuss and to know. Comic is derived from the word comedy, as from the word we come to know that it is about humorous aspects. So, no doubt, it is a part of comedy also. It was derived from the word comedy, and it first started in black and white. There was no color of the comics in 1920s, and Rodolphe Topfer created first comic book in 1927, and it has been popular since, more popular in 1980s, and still it is in the progress, and that people have developed interest at present also. It is based on one or more central characters, that it has more concern about one character particularly, but it may also have can have concern of more than one characters, because it deals with the an imaginary and humorous situation relevant to the character. So more, if more characters are focused, so there may be some kind of ambiguity. So comic deals particularly with one character, and if it is required or the situation requires, the comic writer can have the addition of more than one character to enhance the amusement of the comic. It spins around one issue, and most probably there is one issue, and if the author and the creator of the comic feels that there is another issue to be inserted, so that he may or she may select another topic or another issue to enhance the amusement of the comic. So from one issue to another issue, the writer may twist the situations, may go on with from one situation to another situation. Comics go from one issue to the next, and comics have a pictorial association, and we also know that this comic is not created by words, it is just created by the rectangles which are associated by the different representations of the pictures. One picture links to the other, and the next picture links to the other next pictures, and giving some new message each time, and there is a good representation of humor. There are number of benefits of reading comics. Comics help cherish reading, especially children when they are the beginners, and the students, those who are the beginners in reading, they do not find interest in reading. It is supposed to be the passive activity, inert activity. So creating and there for creating some enthusiasm of reading, the um, if we have to improve their moods and develop their moods for reading, so comic is the first step to make readers have the um, have make readers to learn reading. This is the first step for the beginners of readers. Comics help think differently, because comics, as we come to know by the definition and by the other the background of this comic, that it is not the representation through words, it is the representation through different pictures, captions and illustrations. So it gives us a different kind of vision, the scenario is different. So we gain a different kind of knowledge, and our thinking is also learns to develop differently. Good for cognitive development, our mind gets sharp. We love to link the things one with the other, and from the one from the step 2 to step 3, step 4. So every time we find and we have a new turning point in the comics, so our mind gets used to look the different kind of things, different kind of terminologies through comics. Comics are tranquil. There is a cool message behind the comics, whether the pictures are showing that it is about some bullfight, the stories about some kings and queens, or about the histories, or about the biographies. But these all comics deal with cool aspects because all of them have the relationship with the human follies, stupidities, and foibles. So, human predicament and the stupidities, those are spread around in the world, or all are collected in the comics. So these give us a sense of happiness. We enjoy reading comics. We do not most of the time become critical, or we do not get any suppression when we are reading the comics, but we get some message behind. So we enjoy reading the comics. So these are not tough, and these are not in fact the boring things. These are tranquil. These reduce our tension and our suppression. Comics are not just superhero stories, and these are different from the, or these are more than the just superhero stories. These give us knowledge of all the issues those are found in the world. Any topic the comic writer can choose for writing the comic. So it gives us knowledge of different things. It makes us to laugh at different things from different perspectives. Help figure out the history of series and characters. So history is also one of the concern of the comic writing. The different heroes, different kings and queens, and biographies of the great people, those are all utilized in the comics, and we laugh with the help of those things which are represented in the comics of the histories and historical characters. As we can say, like Akbar Birbal has been the very important and very amusing story in Indian literature, short story literature, and we have also seen the cartoons of Akbar Birbal. So if those are utilized in comic stories, those are no doubt the reference of the biography of some um, ruler and his subordinates and the servants. Misconceptions about comics. Comics are hard to find out. Many people complain this thing. When the beginners are asked to look for the comics, they find it very difficult, or they, without searching for the comics, they give this kind of comment that these are not available. These are easily available in the market. These can be found in the bookshops. These are also available on internet, and these are not so the stories of the boxers, of the fighters, and the superheroes. These are in fact the stories about the current issues even. Only the main purpose behind the comic is to amuse, is to provide humorous aspects to the learners and readers. So it can be about any topic. The theme can be of relevant to any issue of the human life, and it is hard to recognize the background. Sometimes people complain, they say that it is very difficult to find out the background of the comics, but it is not the case. In fact, it is easy when we look at the picture or the drawing. It resembles with some kind of character, with some human being, with some situation. It refers to some situation. So it is easy to find out. We have to just focus. We have to give some minutes to the for observation. We have to reserve some minutes for the paying attention to the picture or to the comic. Then we can easily come to know that this is what is the background of this comic. It is difficult to follow the themes and the characters. Some people also complain this, that it is very difficult to understand the themes and the characters. as we can come to know by the pictures and by the illustration that what it is, what the comic is all about. So it is also easy if we pay attention, we develop interest in reading comics, then it would be definitely easy for the readers and the learners to find out the themes and to associate them with one another, and to associate the theme and point of view of the comics with the characters. It would be easy. Only readiness to read is required. If our attention is there, nothing is difficult. Everything is possible to understand, even the complicated situation in the comics. There are number of elements of comics, as those were the elements we have discussed in the short story. There were different elements of the short story. Similar are here the many other elements which are quite different from the elements of the short story. Panel is the number one. Gutter, splash, spread, speech bubbles, captions, sound effects. All these are the different elements of the comics. Panel. The panel is in fact the rectangular shape. In each comic, we can see that there are number of different boxes and rectangles are shaped, and those are attached one by the one to one by one. They are linked together. Different concepts are discussed there. A picture in one box is given, and then the next continuation is given, and then third continuation of the story is given, and then fourth continuation. So different sections are united and yoked together by the linking of the different rectangles. There are drawings in the rectangles, and side by side there are given the comments also. Gutter. Gutter means the pipeline, the streamline of the different boxes. It is a sequence and direction of the panels. Like the panel means that it is a box. So gutter is in fact the link of the different boxes, the panels. Time the streamline or the pipeline is created to link the different situations of the comics. Splash. It is the highlighter of any special action. It can be a picture, some particular movement, some particular situation is highlighted. It is called splash. Some colorful imagination, some colorful picture is utilized in the splash, and it gives beauty to the comics. Spread. Then comes spread. It is a picture or splash that may continue in more than one page. Picture or splash that may continue in more than one page. It is like the background, or you can even say that it is a panorama. Panorama that continually starts from the very first stage and continues to the last page. It creates an impact that there is a continuity of the story, that all the all the panels, all the gutter and all the splashes are linked with this very only this story. It means the spread is given at all the pages. It is also mostly it is possible that all the pages may have a spreadsheet behind the all the panels and all the gutters and splashes, but it may sometime be only on one page or two pages. And speech bubbles, side by side the characters, those are found in the comic, they have different comments. They give some comments on the situation. Their comments are created over their heads in the round and circular shapes. Some comments are created, those are called the bubbles, speech bubbles. Captions, in below these different pictures and below the different speech bubbles and spread, on the spread and splash there are given some comments, those are called the captions. And we know that the comments and the captions are given below all the situations, or in all the important things we add some captions. Sound effects are also created in the in the comics, and those may be bang sounds, zoom, boom. I have also created some examples, and I have selected certain examples from shutter.com that they are linked with. The story, the elements of the comics can be better understood by looking at the pictures given below. Here it is the panel, and it is also showing you the gutter, that you can see that the panel is created, that the rectangular boxes are here on this page, and then the sequence of all the panel is also made here. Can see one rectangle, then second rectangle, then third rectangle, fourth, fifth. So these are linked. The shapes can be different, but it is a panel that one shape, one box is made, and then in those panels there is one linked with the other, the second is linked to the third and fourth. So this is a picture of the panel and the sequence or the gutter of the panel. Here it is splash, different splash with different colors are used to give some imagination of the situation. These are speech bubbles. Here different comments are created by the um, characters. The author inserts such a certain type of these speech bubbles in between the story in the comics. And then these are the comments, or the captions could be like this: do not tell this to anyone. Let us tell you a secret. I know who did this. Keep it a secret, will you? So these are the comments and the captions. Below, these are different sound effects created. The sound like bang, oh, ho, boom, cool, zap, all these sounds, these are giving the impact that something lively is being discussed. The writer, with the help of these sounds, wants to create a natural effect in the comics. There are certain strategies of reading comics. This is the 3-step strategy for reading comics I have created here. Number 1 strategy is before reading. Number 2 is while reading. Number 3 is after reading. Before reading, the reader must have a readiness to work, readiness to read the comics, and they must read with a purpose. The purposefulness is required for reading the comic. Look to the text and its elements, and the before this all text I have given you the examples of panel, gutter, splash, spread, bubbles and sound effects. So all these elements we must learn to have knowledge of all these elements of the comics, so we may make association easily. When we know the meaning of these things, these elements, so we may be able to connect them when we shall be reading the comics. And then we have to focus the titles, headings, captions, colors and imaginations and the images which are created. The focus of on the title, it is important. No doubt it is similar to reading short story, that we also focus there on the title. Here in the comics, it is also important to notice the title is meaningful. It refers to some important character, it refers to some important situation, it may refer to some political era, it may refer to some the biography of some important person, it may refer to the history. So it is important to notice the title. Headings are also important. Those allude towards the movement of the action in the comics. They tell in what place or in what situation we are now, whether we are in the beginning. This tells the chronological relationship of the things. Step by step, we know through the headings, and captions give us the understanding of some confused ideas where we sometimes fail to understand the connection of the pictures, and sometimes the comments we do not understand. illustrations we do not understand, these comments help. These are associative ideas. And colors and images also help us understand the symbols, the meanings of the author. Recall the previous information. We must also keep things in record, and the reader must be vigilant enough that whatever the previous information he or she has got by looking at the title, at the different elements of the comics, that person must keep in mind that information, the previous information, and so we may continue with the further steps of the comic and list some questions to find answers. It is also important for the reader of the comics to develop some questions and to find answers, because when the reader is paying attention to comic, to its element, he or she is no doubt gaining some insight in biography, in history, in some important character, or he or she is learning about the stupidities, follies, and foibles of that person or time or the era. So, no doubt there would be some questions definitely relevant to the situation which is created in the comics. So, for finding the answers of the question, we must create, the reader must create some questions. During reading, observe the images critically. And then we come to reading. During reading, we come to this step. After knowing about before reading, we come to during reading. This is an important step here. This is most important section of reading comics. We have to observe images critically. First, we have just seen, we have collected information before reading, that what the title is, what are the elements. But here we are now into the situation, we have now fallen into the real comic and reading of the comic. Observe the images critically. We shall look at a first segment, first box of the comic, and we shall observe that critically. Try to analyze the content, the colors, the pictures, the comments, and the speech bubbles, all will be analyzed critically. And we shall also try then to connect the language with the images. We shall connect the comments that the writer or the characters have been given different dialogues. Those, if language is there, we shall connect that with the images. Adore reading. And if we want to have purposeful reading, we have to first keep in mind that we must read purposefully. We must have a readiness and desire for reading. Do not look dictionary and again and again. It sometimes happens that the students and the beginners, those who do not know how to look for the understanding of the things, they do not go for the contextual clues. They time to time go for dictionary. So it is wrong. It is not only the wastage of time, but it is also diverting our attention from the amusement of the story. We do not find ourselves linked to the story. We do not find the proper meaning. So, for appropriate reading, we must look for the contextual clues and record anaphoric and cataphoric references. It is also important to notice the what information we have learned in the previous section and what is to come, what is linked with the previous section and what is going to link or referring towards the further situation. There are certain words utilized on some situations, some indicators are also utilized, symbols are used in the captions, or some symbols are also used in the boxes. Those are referring to look backward, to look forward. So these are called looking backward and looking forward. This means anaphoric and cataphoric references. Then we must also try to understand the approach of the author. No doubt our own perception and our own understanding is also there, but we cannot ignore that there is no doubt there is an approach of the author. The author is himself or herself involved in the making of the story. So we must give importance to the viewpoint of the author and must try to understand his or her approach. That may be humorous, that may be political, that may be social, that may be empirical. So what the meanings are there, we must try to understand. We must connect historically We must try to understand the historical reference. We must try to understand the social, economical, and political scenarios and systems. Those are interwoven within the boxes of the comic. No doubt these are there, and we must not ignore these things, because superficial reading is not the good reading. In fact, we must have the knowledge, we must be ready to understand the content of the comics. What situation is created, what colors are used, what um, concoctions are done there in the comments. We must all try to understand those things. All signals are there, but only we have to focus our mind over them. Then it will become easy for us to read and to understand. Then during reading, I shall continue further. Other things are also there, those are important. Relate all the tags and stickers to the story. There are tags given, some comments are given, some colors and pictures are also minor pictures and things are associated within the story. So we must try to relate them with the boxes, with the comments, with the overall structure of the comic. Important labels have capital, bold type, or a larger font. So it means that sometimes people do not know the art of reading the comics, so they must know there are certain things which are given. Important things can be in capital, bold type, or in larger font. They attract our attention. The writer deliberately creates those things in bold, in capital, or in larger font to attract our attention, and it is also the signal for the reader that they may look for these things. These are the signposts and the labels. Monitor projectiles and shapes to understand movements. Sometimes there are projections made by the author and different shapes are made. The circular shapes, those may refer to the globe, those may refer to the earth. The blue color, sky blue color, may refer to the sky. Brown color, skin color may refer to the earth, and greenery may refer to the meadows and fields. So there are different projections made, and some fire and some alarm. If these things are created, these may refer to some bombardment, some fight, some alarming situation. So these are the projections which the writer creates, and it is made understood and easy for the readers of the comics by inserting certain projections and the shapes. Connect pictures and signs with the things they allude to, and we must have critical bent of mind to relate to the things for what the pictures are made for. We must try to find out the meaning. Understanding meaning is very important for reading the comic with interest. And we have not to ignore the captions. Every learner, every reader must be quite vigilant to look at the captions, what comments are given there. Where there are confusions and there are some ambiguities of the meanings, we may get those corrected by the help of the captions. And after reading, completion of the reading, we must keep these things in mind also, elaborate the facts and figures. The task of the reader does not here after the before reading section and during reading section. After reading, he or she has to be more careful about assessing his or her understanding about reading comics, that what he or she has got from the comic. So we must make the outline of the facts and the figures, what we have learned from the story. So review the information, and we have to not only read the story, and we then have to write that. We must prepare some notes for our own understanding that we can look for afterwards when we have completed, or after we have understood the things. So we can prepare our own notes orally and in the written for confirming that information. This can help us to, when we talk to ourselves after collecting some information, or we write our comments at the side of some paper or in the diary, that these help us to understand the comic in a better way. And make your own chart or picture like a tree or a spider web of information. This is a unique activity that after reading we must all try to make such spider web or the flow chart for connecting the situations, pictures, and captions. And this, in fact, soothes us. It is comfortable for us to keep and to connect, to develop cognitive understanding of the story. This is the subsection of this topic, reading excerpt. It is also an important part of reading. Excerpt reading is quite different from the reading of the short story and from reading of the comic, because here it is not, we are not talking about the full-fledged story, full-fledged comic. In fact, excerpt means just a portion of a thing. It can be a portion of any drama, it can be a portion of any film, it can be a portion of an essay, it can be a portion of a short story, it can be a portion of a lesson. So it is in fact a passage. Excerpts mean passages, short passages which are taken, which can be sometime seen, and those are sometimes seen or those are sometime unseen. Those usually come in the exams, in the papers. Reading excerpts, its definition according to the dictionary is: excerpts are a short part of a narrative, a film, music or song, or a novel, etc. So these can be short passages taken from longer narrative. It can be taken from a film, it can be taken even from music or a song, or it can be taken from a novel or novella. I have collected an example of an excerpt for you all to understand in better way. It's very easy example that from anywhere the excerpt could be taken and it can be given to the students in the exams for the content analysis. So how they have to look that content apart from its whole section, because it is a part of the whole. You have brains in your mind, your heads. You have brains in your head. You have feet in your shoes. You can steer yourself any direction you choose. You are on your own, on your own, and you know what you know, and you are the one who will decide where to go. So you have brains in your head, you have feet in your shoes, you can steer yourself any direction you choose, you are on your own and you know what you know, and you are the one who will decide where to go. So there is some kind of message. The passage is really having some kind of sense, some meaning, but overall, without knowing the whole part of the lesson or of the essay, we have to make understanding of this passage by its context, what the author has said, why this passage is created, what is the meaning of the passage, what the lines suggest, what the words suggest. So we have to look for all these things in the excerpt. Importance of reading excerpts. It can be seen separately. That first time we come to realize that something separately is also important. The unit, the smaller unit of a bigger unit or section is also important. Every minute detail is important. That literary, social, political, regional, religious, and economical importance. So every section in written is important. Anything could be given, anything could be analyzed from content point of view. A challenge for the readers to analyze a separate portion. Sometimes people think that it is very difficult to look at the things out of context without knowing the whole section or whole lesson. It is difficult to, so it is challenging, no doubt, but it sharpens mind. It gives people a type of opportunity to analyze things without looking at its background, looking at the whole section of the thing. So it is a kind of a brain activity. It no doubts opens our mind. It resolves our tensions. It addresses to our uh, it it appeals to our mind. In fact, it makes us to work on, to think on, without having the past scene, past background. We can do something very good without knowing the past, without the previous knowledge. So every new thing, every separate section is important. So we can say excerpt reading is a good, enjoyable activity. Benefits of reading excerpts: builds and strengthens reading comprehension, creates analytical capabilities, gives rational understanding, helps learn avoiding ambiguities, imparts knowledge of the insinuations and implications, polishes readers' learning faculties, builds and strengthens reading comprehension. In reading comprehension, different by reading the excerpt, our comprehension gets better. That we learn to develop question, we learn to find out answers, we create questions at our own, and we give answers at our own. So without the assistance of others, without the assistance of the whole portion, we can work on. This kind of confidence comes by reading the excerpts, and by reading our analytical capabilities, that we learn to link things where we do not find any nook and corner of the section or of the passage. Even then we are capable of making some meaning out of that, and it gives us the wisdom, special understanding of the things without historical background of the thing. And it also makes us to avoid ambiguities, that we make things purposeful, meaningful by looking at the excerpt. And it gives us the knowledge of the different complications and different concoctions, that what the writer or what the words mean here. We try to understand the political philosophical meanings which are hidden behind the excerpts. And it nourishes the mind of the readers. The readers find confidence that they can look at the passages separately, without the help of the past, without the help of the background, without the comments of the other readers and other writers. So it is good activity for brain. The features of excerpts, as there were the features of or elements of short story and the comics, so here are also the feature of the excerpts. The excerpts have context. No excerpt, no passage is without a context. There is no doubt some background. The words, there have these words in the excerpt, whether those are 50, around 100 words, but those give us some kind of background. Whether that background can be situational or limited, but there is at least one background or one context available. And point of view is also there, as in this passage we can see that some confidence is being built by the author. The author is saying to the readers that we have our own wisdom, our own intelligence, and we can rely our own selves. So there is some kind of point of view, no doubt. The encouragement is there in this excerpt which I have chosen here for the example. Characters are also there. The reader is one important character, and the author is also involved there. So at least two characters are no doubt available in the excerpts. We cannot say that if the story or the passage does not have the background, it does not have the link with the past or previous things, or it is not given in whole, so it does not mean that it does not have characters. There are characters. And there's language it is self explanatory. Each word is giving some meaning, each word is giving us some sense. So by linking the words we can understand its semanticity. By the syntactic structures of the excerpt and the passage, we can understand the language and we can gain the message behind it. There is some didactic purpose, there can be some moral purpose, there is some kind of theme behind this. So themes of encouragement, theme of love, friendship, uh, anything can be there. So in this very passage I find there is the encouragement, theme of encouragement, theme of self is given there. There is a style also. There is some we can say the writer has a good style of the teaching style, giving message style. The reference is there of some past learning, and the giving thought provoking style is there. So no doubt the insertion of style is also there. The writer is trying to be here prophetic. He's telling or she's telling that there is some uniqueness in all human beings. So there is definitely a style in every excerpt, because when it was a part of the whole, so there was some style, there was some message. So no doubt, if we are separating this section from the whole, the message remains there, style remains there. As a whole, that style or that meaning can be different, but no doubt in the separate section it also has some good language, some message, some style also. Here I feel that there is some, the writer is giving a lesson or teaching a lesson of self confidence and giving encouragement. The style is encouraging in this very passage. Strategies to read excerpts. We must read within the lines, the hidden message between the lines. We must go for the hidden message. We must look to the vocabulary. We must try to understand the synonyms, antonyms in this very passage and excerpt to make the sense of the excerpt. We must also look for the contextual clues. The context is very important when some separate section, a single passage is given for the analysis. So linking words, the side words help us to analyze. So readers must be vigilant, and the students and the beginners in reading must be vigilant to look for the side words. Those are around the word. So we must go for the contextual clues also. We must make inferences. Some human experiences, human assumptions also help us to understand the meanings of the things which are being spoken or which are being given us to analyze and to read. So we must also rely on our own perceptions and inferences also to understand the meanings. We have to keep in mind there is compare and contrast activity available for reading anything, because this is the basic, in fact, the way of looking at the things, that if we do not have anything, at least comparison and contrast is available there, that we may look for one sentence, we may compare that one sentence with the other sentence, the second sentence can be compared with the third. So no doubt there would be some kind of meaning created. We may be able to derive meaning by comparing and contrasting the sentences. Sometimes the sentences will be positive, sometimes will be in a negative sense. So there will be some positive, negative, some neutral meaning behind the passage. Skim and scan the passage. We must give a bird's eye view. We must just have a look at the paragraph and the excerpt, and at the same time we may also focus intensively on every word of the passage. This will help us to understand the hidden meaning, the inward meaning of the passage. So these two strategies, skimming and scanning, can also be helpful for reading the excerpts. Scan the words and the arrangement. And the syntactic structures help us, no doubt, that how the arrangement of the sentences is done, whether the words are arranged in proper appropriate way, like the sentences generally are made, like subject, verb and the object, or some other ways utilized here. Is the sentence, is there the sentence in question form, or the sentences are in positive way, or the sentences are in interrogative or negative way. So all these arrangements we can see. Are the sentences in inverted commas, are the sentences italicized, or these are made bold? So different are there the illusions available in the text, those can help us to understand meaning. So excerpt reading is also easy one, but just we have to focus on the different illusions and the ways those are available. We must focus on the given information, available information. We must not rely on the miracle. We must focus on the given thing, given passage. The things are all around within the passage, and our attention and our focus is required only. So we may easily understand the meaning. We may gain some kind of knowledge about the excerpt also, and we may be able to analyze that critically, no doubt. There are many other strategies to read excerpts with that focus the signal markers, like firstly, secondly, moreover, however. So these are signal marks. These help us understand that what thing is coming first, what is coming next, what is further detail of the thing. So these help us understand smoothly. We can focus on the movement of the paragraph and the movement of the thinking process of the author. Create a wall of words. We can go on the creating the vocabulary. We can write down the all words in a separate page, and we can create our own dictionary, small dictionary relevant to the passage, that can make us understand the step by step the understanding of the development of the thought. We must look for the meaning from the context, and we must try to link the words to generate idea. And we have to link these words, no doubt, for understanding meaning, so we must try to link the words one by one. And we have also to observe the topic sentence. If there is some, the passage is good enough that it is having some good topic sentence in the beginning or in the middle or in the end, there may be some one topic sentence, so we must also look for that, because though that sentence gives us the full sense of the whole excerpt, and it would be good to find out the topic sentence first. And this is out of the different other good useful strategies of reading passages, that we must first, in the first place, we must look for the topic sentence, then we may be able to understand the further things easily. And read, recall, review is the other good activity, that we must read thing, then we must revive, we must try to recall, and then we must review, we must be critical to analyze the passage. And then we have to develop some kind of opinion and explanations also, so we may satisfy ourselves that we have at least understood the passage, or we may be able to convey some message in the answer if it is stated as the excerpt is given as one of the questions to analyze, so we may be able to define something. So we must prepare our different opinions, we must also prepare some our explanations in a notebook side by side when we are reading the passage and the excerpt. These are the references which I told you in the beginning. You can also study these references for further understanding and gaining some new information. I hope you might have got a good idea about reading the comics, about reading the excerpts. You're all welcome to make questions. I hope you have got understanding. Thank you very much for giving your precious time and giving your attention. Allah Hafiz.